Language can be quite flexible. You can take common terms from the dictionary and from your everyday speech patterns and find certain words or phrases that can be an open door for you to find a different kind of a self, different kind of a mind, to find a way to go out into the world and not run into the problems that you now run into, or to stay home and run into the difficulties that you now experience. One of these phrases, very common one, you'll recognize it when I give it to you. One of these phrases is simply that of getting tough. You know the phrase? Well, you know the experience well enough, because ever since you were a little child, you've been getting tough. Too bad, but that's the way it was. Remember when you were younger, going to school, and a child took something away from you or threw something at you? That's a good summary, is it not? To say that you reacted by getting tough in whatever way you knew how, throwing something back. Do you have the insight to see that the society you live in is nothing but a school playground with angry, tough little children running around, throwing things at each other, trying to take things from each other, and everyone ending up crying and sorrowful? Haven't I described the human situation just the way it is? But we're talking about you. We're talking about this dreadful habit that you picked up when you were a child that you've never been able to break, not up until now. You'll learn during the course of this talk how to break it, but now you don't know how. And you call getting tough both an offense and a defense. Someone offends you, says something you don't like, builds up inside of you with a pressure. And so you get tough by either striking back or by running home internally and weeping. And the sad part of it is the difficulty remains. The problem is still there. Monday you cried, and Tuesday the problem was still there. Wednesday you went out and struck back at the world with hostility, and Thursday the problem was still there. Nothing changes. Isn't it about time that you begin to think of a way which will be given to you? You begin to think of a way in which you don't have to repeat yourself, and which you don't have to either have a fight or flight every time a challenge comes up from the outer world. Now, you're under complete delusion if you think there's any protection or any fun in being tough. Look at the drain. Look at how you go home and are worn out at night. Worn out at night. You're tired at 10 o'clock in the morning because you've been wasting yourself ever since you got up. The battle begins when you get up, doesn't it? Somehow you have the wrong impression that you've been conscripted into an army and a rifle has been shoved into your hands and you have to go out and fight the enemy all day long. Where did you get that idea? Who told you you have to go out and fight? Be tough? Well, I'll tell you who. Every human being you've ever met, since you were a little girl, since you were a little boy. You had better, and I highly recommend it, you had better stop believing in what you picked up. No one, nothing, absolutely nothing requires you to go out like a soldier ready for the battle every morning, and yet you do. You do, and you know it. Why? I'm asking you why. I'll tell you why. It's just an exciting habit that you've picked up, and that if it was taken away from you, you wouldn't know how to behave. Let me tell you a little secret. It is possible for each one of you here, all of you listening and watching, it is possible for you to get up and go all day long, all week long, all year long, all life long, and not fight anyone. It is possible for you to do it. How do you suppose you'd feel if that was the case? You're worried about it, aren't you? How you'd feel. You think that there'd be an emptiness in you, a lack of motivation, a lack of something to do. You know, it'd be a very intelligent move for all of you to not believe in what you now believe in, which is that you have to remain as you are because that is your safety and security and the only way that is possible for you to live on this earth, and you are wrong if you think so. There's a way in which you can change everything early in the morning and all day long, and all night long too, so that you're not a victim of yourself as you now are. Now listen very carefully. I started off by saying that we get up in the morning and we start getting tough with other people, with that world. You think you have to battle out there. Now, when you battle something out there, can you see, can you understand where the battle really is? Inside yourself. Now, come on. Is it intelligent or is it foolish to allow your life to be a battleground? Come on now. It's one or the other. Now, don't try to hide anywhere behind explanations, because I'm going to put it to you again until you're forced to see something that you don't want to see, because it would be the end of your pseudo-comfort, of your so-called exciting life, which is a dreadful life. Is it a wise thing to do, or is it a foolish thing to do to allow your life, your day, to be a battleground? You know what a battleground is like? It's pretty noisy out there, isn't it? Isn't your mind noisy all day long? Because it's about, you know what it is. All the shots and the shells of your own emotions and your own frustrations and your own cries when you get wounded. How many times have you been wounded in your life? Far too many for you to count, right? Now, there's no way to escape the logic that has been presented to you. The logic that your life is indeed nothing but a tough battleground in which you either lose or what you call win, and even when you win, you lose because there's always a negative, wrong state in there. I wonder if you've ever explored such a simple battleground as an argument. How many of you argued today? Let's see your hands. Yeah, lots of hands. How many of you are arguing right now while I'm talking? I know you are. I know you are. You don't have to raise your hand. I know you're resisting something that's going to change you. I know you don't want the purity of truth. You're not used to it. You don't know what it looks like, and you're afraid of it. It's a stranger to you. So you're arguing right now. Be aware of it. That's what you should do. Simply know that you're fighting, you're battling. This is your little battleground right now. That you know better. Well, if you know better than truth, how come you have to insist so insistently? How come you have to keep telling yourself that you know? How come there is always a battle to prove that you're right? The reason there's a battle to prove that you're right is because you're wrong. Aren't you delighted at the revelation of that? Don't you see that that is indeed the doorway to where you don't have to fight anymore? You can simply admit this is what you've been battling all your life. And then you know what you have to do to get rid of the battle? Let me tell you, so simple. You just stop fighting. You know, the way to stop a war is for both sides just stop fighting, right? What else? Never mind the peace treaties, never mind the discussions, never mind reduction in armaments. Just stop fighting right now. Oh, look at the battle you have over giving up the battle, right? I know what you're saying. I know what your unconscious thoughts are. Should I tell you what they are? What do I do with myself if I don't have something to fight? Will I be able to stand a peaceful life? What will it be like? What will it be like without me being me? For heaven's sake, what is it like you being you? Not very pleasant, is it? No enjoyment at all, no quietness, no self-command, no going through your day, knowing what you're doing and knowing that nothing can touch you. The life of a soldier on a battlefield is a pretty perilous place. It's a nice place to get hurt all the time if you want to stay out there. We're offering you a spiritual alternative, not man's alternative. It's merely a switch from one battleground to another, but an alternative where you leave the battleground altogether. There you are, the soldier out there firing at others and being fired at and being wounded, and all those sharp weapons out there. But take a soldier who suddenly realizes where he is and realizes that he doesn't want anything to do with the insanity of the world. He can walk off the battlefield if he wants, can't he? You know what happens to a soldier who walks off the battlefield? We've got an illustration going here. He gets punished, doesn't he, for desertion? You start deserting the battlefield of this sick society. You start to walk off that battlefield and watch how you be accused of something. Watch how you'll be called a deserter from society's sanity and right ways. Well, I better tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Who would you say has full authority in this universe? God or man? Who would you say has right views, has sanity, has true wisdom, truth or society? Which? Which are you going to obey from now on? You know what you've obeyed up to this time. You obeyed all the madness of the machine guns and the bayonets and the rifles and the hand grenades of society in which they told you that you're here to fight. And you do your part of fighting and hating. If you don't hate someone else, we'll hate you. Can you imagine what society is telling you to do? Can you imagine a truly decent, good, spiritual human being? Can you imagine him wanting anything to do with the hurting of society? Can you imagine him wanting to get tough with anyone? You see, you get tough if you think it's necessary. If you think there's something to defend. There's nothing to defend. Nothing at all. You have nothing to defend whatever except your delusions. Anytime you defend anything, you're defending your sickness and nothing else. Anytime you get self-righteous, you're being righteous over nothing, over a zero. But you think that that nothing is something, and so you fight for it. And then you have the nerve to complain when you get wounded. If you weren't on society's mad battlefield, you wouldn't get hurt at all, would you? So whose fault is it if you cry, if you scream, if you complain, if you feel persecuted? Shall I tell you a characteristic of sanity? A sane man or woman never feels persecuted at all. Never feels persecuted, never feels left out, never feels hurt by anyone or anything. I'm telling you how a sane human being operates. Of course, you don't know much about that, but I'm introducing it to you. So one day maybe you'll understand by personal experience what it means to have such a goodness inside of you. You can't go along with the badness of yourself anymore, therefore not along with the badness of the world out there. This is a delightful experience if you go that far. Go all the way with it, and you'll understand what I'm talking about from yourself, not just from the talk that you're being given. Now, to reach this point where you understand that to be on the battlefield and trying to win over someone else, that to be on the battlefield at all is to be defeated. There's no such thing as victory out there among all the guns and the bombs. There's only defeat for everyone out there, both sides. Starting from the top to the bottom, to the generals down to the buck privates, there's nothing but loss, defeat, pain, wounded, and so on. If you understand this, begin to understand that you can't win out there, you will have an experience that will come to you. That will be progression toward your leaving the battlefield and being on top of that peaceful hill where you can look down and understand the madness of all those armies and the leaders and everyone striking out at each other. Let's see if I can illustrate a stage that you have to go through. You're not there yet, but you can start it. Here's a man, let's say, who is tired of the big town and all its noisy cars and the smog and the fierce competition, the mad competition. So he decides to go out into the countryside to a little cabin. So he goes out and he finds a little place out in the pretty woods and hills. He stays there for a couple days. After 2 days, he looks out the window, he hears a racket out there, and he looks out and he gasps in dismay. What is happening is that all the bulldozers are out there now, clearing away the pretty greenery and covering up the little creek to make room for a housing project. There goes his rest, there goes his cabin, there goes his seclusion and his privacy. So he sighs and he says, well, this isn't the only place in the world. I'll go on and find another place, which he does. He goes a couple 100 miles way on back. He finds another quiet place. Stays there for a couple days. Looks out the window again, groans again. Here come the truck and the bulldozers again to make a new superhighway through the area there. He's distressed and dismayed, so he packs up his little few belongings, takes off again. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, tries to find a place to rest. In this aggressive, in this hostile, in this noisy world, you can't find any rest or security at all, and he knows it. You know what he does? To conclude the story, he goes to another country altogether. This country where he lived, everyone is mad, always pushing things around, always making other people uncomfortable. There's no place. He understood there's no place to hide, so he went to another place where there was a place to be secluded, to not be part of the madness of the crowds and their aggression. Well, I've just related your life story, haven't I? You haven't found a place to hide, have you? You know it, I know it. You're nervous, you're insecure. You're looking out the window, aren't you? Wondering when your rest is going to be disturbed. What rest? When this little corner that you've found, you're wondering when the bulldozers are going to come up, and the men with the hats and the surveying instruments, and they're going to push you out of there. You're just waiting for it and worrying over it, aren't you? And so you go from this marriage to the next marriage. You go from this career to that career. You go from this daydream to the next one, and on to the next one, and on to the next one. You're pretty tired of running, aren't you? Please understand something. As long as you stay in this nation, the society of this world, you'll always be running. There's no place to run to. And do you understand that this world that I'm talking about, this world of the mad bulldozers, you understand we're telling you that it is inside you as well as outside? That's where you can start to make a change of scenery, a permanent change of scenery. You find something inside yourself, begin to understand there's a new country inside yourself. It will come to you. Here's the beauty of it. Come on. You know you're at the mercy of this world, aren't you? You're afraid of everyone and everything. I better repeat that. You fear, you're terrified of, and hostile toward everything and everyone. Of course you are. Oh, I know you smile a lot, and I know you got a lot of exciting things to do. But oh, are you worried? Worried over yourself? Well, we've talked a good deal about the problem. We could go on and on about it because it's there, and you could add your own particular details to it, couldn't you? You could fill in a lot of the blank spaces. You could say, yes, that's what I do, and I run away. And you could say, for example, I ran away one time when this or that happened. Along came the bulldozers again, and all the yelling and all the noise, and you had to run again. It's unnecessary. Look, it's so simple. I said to you 3 seconds ago, I said it's unnecessary for you to keep running. It's unnecessary for you to delude yourself into thinking that at last you found a place to hide. You haven't, and you won't the way you're living. Protecting yourself, battling, fighting, getting tough all the time. You're not going to find it. I'm telling you, you're not going to find it the way you're going. No, never. Face it right now. It can be found. It can be found, but not as long as you want to find your kind of security. Your kind of security is as follows. You always say to yourself, the next cabin will be the permanent one. I know it will be. If I just get the money, if I just get the man, just get the woman, if I just get that new home somewhere, I know that will be it. If I get the education, if I get this or that, you're always saying, if I get this or that, that will be it. The next time you kid yourself into thinking that the next cabin is going to be a permanent one, I want you to do something for yourself. I want you to notice the doubts you have even while you say it. I want you to notice how self-deception has become so hardened in you that you can no longer observe it. Now, if you did this, if you could see yourself deceiving yourself into thinking that in one way or another, or some future heaven or whatever you've invented, this future heaven, or cabin, whatever it is, notice that when you say, this next one is going to be my place of rest, Notice that there's no way you can believe yourself. That is good. That's not bad. That's good. It is good to see how you lie. And lies have been the story of your life. And if you're angry at me saying that, that proves it. Wouldn't it be better to say something like this? Yes, I've kidded myself into thinking that when I get this or get rid of that, then I'll be happy. But I've never been happy, therefore I'm doing the wrong thing. Therefore, I'd better listen to something higher than myself, a voice that's higher than me, listen to that and let it come to me and let it tell me its whole story so that I can have a whole life at last, and it will happen.